guys, impromptu speaking tips or how to give an impromptu speech. So some of my information I'm going to be getting from this book titled Talk Like TED. It is a book all about what makes a good speech, what captivates people. What is it about this or that speaker that made a certain talk go viral on the internet, for example. And so it's a really detailed, analyzed summary of what makes a good speech. So there are three main components of what make a good speech, and in my opinion this does apply to impromptu speeches as well, because an impromptu speech is still a speech. The first component is that it is emotional. The speaker is actually passionate and the speaker actually cares about what he or she is talking about. And the audience can definitely tell if you actually care what you're talking about. And if you don't care what you're talking about, you're gonna come across as boring and you're not going to keep your audience's attention for very long. So the single greatest thing that catches someone's attention is novelty or something new, something that he or she has never seen before. So if you can come up with something completely new that has never been talked about before, you will definitely keep your audience attention this way. Honestly, there's a lot of information that a lot of people aren't aware of or that don't know or haven't learned. So in my opinion, it's not really that difficult to present something to someone that is new. And the last thing is memorable. So it's got to be something that makes an emotional impact on somebody and then they'll remember it years later and be able to recall the gist of the speech because it was presented in a memorable way. So for example, an actual speech was given by Bill Gates about malaria. If you know, he's like a big proponent of eliminating malaria in Africa, so he wanted to talk about this during a speech, and the way he presented the problem with malaria is he brought a jar of mosquitoes to his talk, like on stage, and he's like, well, I'm gonna release these mosquitoes out to you guys because poor people shouldn't be the only people experiencing malaria. And he let out all these mosquitoes in the audience. Obviously the audience, they actually had a really good reaction to this, but because it was such a new way of presenting the idea or the problem of malaria and actually exposing people to the possibility of getting malaria, later on he said that the mosquitoes actually didn't have malaria, he just kind of did it for the effect, to make an impact basically. So this would be an example of a memorable way of presenting information. And again, so these three components are what make a successful speech that people will remember and that people will be moved by. Another tip I have for impromptu speeches is just practice. I know that you've probably already heard this, you probably in fact already know this, but I cannot stress it enough how important it is for you to actually just practice the art of speaking, whether it be in the mirror or actually do what I'm doing right now. Speak in front of a camera, analyze the way you talk, analyze your body language, analyze your eye contact. This is a really great tool and great resource for you to use in order to improve your speaking ability. The more you practice, the more relaxed you will be in front of a large group of people. You'll be very well versed in speaking and communicating. You won't have trouble trying to communicate a certain idea. You won't be grasping for words or forgetting things. The more you do it, the better you will get, and you will appear so natural that it will be as if you're just having a conversation with a really good friend. If you can get to that level of skill where it seems as if you're having a conversation, you are a really, really good speaker and you will have no problem with an impromptu speech. My last tip, which is a little bit strange, but in my opinion, it's pretty relevant. Because impromptu requires you to think quickly on your feet, you have to be a really, really quick thinker and you actually have to have kind of a silver tongue. So in order for you to be good at this aspect of impromptu speech, I would honestly recommend that you study humor. Study how to be funny. And it's not so that you know how to give a funny impromptu speech, which would probably be really awesome, but being funny actually requires you to open up your mind and to sort of bring down your limitations and your tendency to limit and put certain subjects in boxes. The thing that makes people funny, or one huge aspect of humor, is the ability to take a seemingly ordinary event or thing and to put it in a light that seems ridiculous, to perceive it in a certain way that makes it seem absolutely ridiculous. And the ridiculousness is what actually makes it funny. But in order for you to do that, you have to be able to take that thing and expand your perception of it. So you have to expand your mind. And when you can do this with basically everything in life, you will seriously have no issues when someone's like, oh, do an impromptu speech about toilets. You will have no problem taking the idea of toilets and perceiving it in a different way, and then making a speech about it, maybe making a funny speech about it. But either way, you're going to do something creative with the subject of toilets, right? Because like I said, the key to really good speeches are novelty and making it memorable. Those are my tips for giving an impromptu speech. I hope they help. I would really highly recommend checking this book out. It's a really great resource for understanding public speaking, how to be a good public speaker. It's a great resource for that, and it's fairly new. It was published, I think, a couple years ago. So anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!